Good evening, everybody. Welcome on in. It's Friday night, and I'm back, and we're actually going to do some coding for a change. Holy crap. It's amazing. It's truly a thing of wonder and beauty here, my friends. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you're all healthy and happy and kicking butt and taking names and ready for the weekend. Just like relax and enjoy and hopefully have good weather and all that stuff. So for the past couple weeks, actually it's been almost a month, looks like, since we last were together. And the reason I had put it off is because we got to the end of the chapter 7 of this Vulcan book, and my code just wasn't working. It was just crashing. It was giving a hard crash. Segment fault, all that stuff. So I was digging around, and we did have one stream where I tried to dig through it and figure out what's going on. But honestly, it was one of those things where I needed to sit down with some music on and just kind of go through it line by line by line to try to figure out where I went wrong. In the process of doing that, I ended up downloading the actual code for the book that we've been looking at online, which on the one hand is kind of nice because I can see it in a much bigger light here. On the other hand, the one thing that kind of annoys me is that I could do a diff, but they didn't actually. I saw another book out there. I don't think it was for Vulcan. I think it was for OpenGL. And they had all the code up for the book. And they went to the extra step of actually putting up patch files, diff files, from one chapter to the next. So you could just look at the diff and see at a glance all the things that were changed from one chapter to the next. This one doesn't do that. I have to I have a tool I've downloaded. I downloaded Compare, which is a KDE, basically front end for diff, essentially. And that is this is all right. And so I am so I went through that and I was looking at the files, but even that's a little bit. It's a little hard to navigate. It's not that hard to navigate, but it's still, when you're trying to find stuff, it can still be a little bit frustrating. Hey, Master Band. Welcome on in. Good to see you're still going. Could you give me some solid advice on becoming a decent Java programmer? It's the same as any programming thing, which is just practice, right? The best thing you can do is find little annoyances that you want to solve, even if there's like a tool already for them out there, like command line stuff kind of thing, and just sort of write some stuff. There's nothing specific that I can point you at. There's a lot of tutorials online for Java. There's relatively generic books like Clean Code and stuff like that have Java in them, but they're mostly geared towards just all programming languages, as far as like best practices for writing code and stuff like that. But honestly, a lot of that stuff becomes second nature as you practice. Anyway, so yeah, there's nothing like I can't like point at any one thing and be like, go do this, go do that. I guess I've never actually tried Advent of Code before. Uh, I always thought that that was kind of geared a little bit more towards like uh, C development and Python and stuff like that. But I imagine they don't really prescribe what language you would use to code in to code some of those problems. That might be a little bit more advanced because it's a lot of the problems in there are like puzzles that you kind of have to solve with coding, and that could get a little bit. I mean, that could be difficult even for a seasoned programmer. So, you could kind of look at some of that stuff too. But really, it's just it's just find little utility things that you just want to do. Again, even if it's something that already exists, like I was just mentioning before, in KDE there's a tool called Compare, which is basically a front end to the diff command, which shows you differences between two text files. Nobody says you can't do that if you're trying to learn, right? You could do something like that where you just write like a little front end that or even just a command line only thing that just kind of shows the differences between two files and stuff, and just kind of build from there. It's you could even, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could try some game dev stuff. I would start out with well, first of all, I'd start out with something really small, like Pong or something like that, or Space Invaders or something, and like pick up there's references online for libgdx, I think it is. You can kind of learn some of that and do like a 2D thing and just kind of learn how to do that. Unfortunately, in yesteryear, I would have said like fire up a browser and do like a Java applet kind of thing, but those will never work anymore. But you can do something very similar where you can, learn Java Swing, which is the Java UI stuff, and have like a GUI thing there. And there's books on that. I would look through like the Manning catalogs for things. Yeah, because they have a lot of. I mean, they have a lot of books like Rust and everything else, but they do have a lot of Java books, especially for early learning. And a lot of these are, there's like Java development. There's 100 Java mistakes. Java, I think the Java start with Java thing here. And these have like ebooks and stuff, like PDFs and stuff that you can do. So if you don't want a hard, a physical copy kind of thing. But Manning generally has a lot of good stuff. Particularly with Flutter, but with Java, but also other things too. They usually have some pretty good like fundamental books that like kind of walk you through in a lesson style way, just give you like ideas of how to do things. This one though, I don't know how well this is for like someone starting out necessarily, but it might give you some fundamentals and stuff. I don't know if they have anything. beyond. This is talking about a lot of newer stuff. Oh yeah, it says this is for intermediate Java developers. So I don't know if there's like. There used to be a book called Beginning Java. I don't know if it's still around. Troubleshooting Java. Classic computer science problems in Java. Flex on Java. Yeah, they don't have. I'm surprised they don't have like the starting out in Java stuff, because they used to have some really good starting books for starters. I wonder if there's like Java for starters. Yeah, core Java was, I think that was the one, wasn't it? That is. What's the 15 best books here? Head First Java, Java A Beginner's Guide. Java the Complete Reference is a book that I actually have. Yeah, where's that at? Java Complete Reference. 11th edition on Amazon. Yeah, this is a book. I have like a much earlier edition. I have like 5th edition or something like that, 6th edition. But yeah, this is a book that even I have. This is a really good starter one. Actually, they're up to 13th edition, apparently. Yeah, because it goes up to Java 21 now. So I mean, that was a good one. So Java. What is this? Free online course on learning Java. There's contents. 7 parts. Part 1 to 15. Printing, reading input. Oh yeah, this will start out. Loops. Discovering errors. Lists, arrays. Objects on lists. Moving repetitive code. This looks like a really good online thing. Algorithms. What algorithms do they do? Out of curiosity. Bubble sort, probably. Yeah. Every college course is like, we're going to teach you algorithms. Now, do some sorting. Which, I mean, to be fair, that is a classic algorithm. Ooh, they're doing searching too. Okay, binary search algorithm and stuff. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, this will work. This will work really well. I wonder if the MIT OpenCourseWare also. OpenCourseWare. I wonder if they have a Java thing. Oh, Introduction to Programming in Java. Do they have? Is it? Oh, they have PDFs here. Types inheritance. That's it? They just go to inheritance, exceptions, and file IO? Really? That's all. They stop at 7. Oh, it's all slides. Oh, that's terrible. Boy, somebody phoned this one in. I honestly, I was expecting more from MIT. They kind of phoned this one in. But I mean, this can help if you really want like a really glossed over version. What's the if you download the course, is that something different, or does that just give you? Oh, it's just the same. And it gives you assignments, which is nice. Lecture notes. Okay. Yeah, this other one that you pointed out looks really good. Looks a lot better than the MIT courseware, which is crazy. Operating system engineering. I ought to look at some of these myself. I always refer people to MIT OpenCourseWare, because most of us can never afford MIT. And then I look at it and I'm like, man, there's some stuff here I would probably want to learn about. But yeah, no, this looks fantastic actually. It looks like they've got a lot of oh, they're actually making an asteroids game too. But they're using, I bet they're using Swing probably, right? Oh, they're using they've got a stage, so they're using JavaFX, which is better. It's better than Swing, but it's also a little bit more advanced than Swing. And I mean, Swing is not maintained either, but I don't think JavaFX is maintained anymore either. It's there, but I don't know if it's ever gotten any updates along the way. But it still works. It works very well. The one nice thing about JavaFX too is that you can get it's got an integration with like a mini Chrome browser, so you can actually pull up like web pages and stuff. Theoretically, you could make your own web browser from it. I mean, technically, I mean it'd be still using Chrome under the covers, but it's, you know, technically you could make your own UI for one. I had to dig into JavaFX just a little bit at work because we had an ancient applet that we were still supporting for just a little while, and it needed to do single sign-on stuff. So I had to fire up the little mini browser that comes with it so that you could log in through SSO and process all that, have it come back, you know, have the browser be able to read the result that coming back from it and put that into the regular app and have it run that way. So it was good for that because you could take full control over the browser and see all the results coming back and all that stuff. So yeah, that'll work for you. This is a good one. A really good one. In fact, I'm gonna bookmark this myself in case others ask. Because that's pretty darn good. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then just like I said, just practice. You know, you can even if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can go. Like one of the things I did back when I was a kid was try to find. There wasn't nearly as much stuff online now as there is, but I tried to find stuff online that had the source code available, and I could just kind of play around with it myself. one of the things here, like there's something I was looking at earlier that I wanted to play around with myself. I think it was GitHub Java Magic Gathering. Here it is. This, yeah, I think it's this one. Forge. Where's the how do I get to the actual page itself? I think it's just, is it Card Forge? Okay, so it's probably GitHub Card Forge. Yeah, here it is. I think this is the one. Yes, I think this, yeah. So this is this thing's been around for years and years, but it's still being updated. But this is someone's been writing there was an old MS-DOS game that was Magic the Gathering. I want to say it was called Duels of the Planeswalkers, but I don't know if that was the subtitle or not, but it was basically, you had this whole world that you would walk around in, and you would encounter monsters and dungeons and stuff, and play a game of Magic the Gathering, and then win cards every time you bested something and whatnot. And they basically took that concept. They didn't take any of the code, but they took that concept and they wrote a Java version of it, which runs on modern systems, and they've been continually updating it. They have this adventure section. It doesn't, the map isn't the same, I don't think, as the original map. They did all different stuff, but it's the same idea. So I've been wanting to look at this even more and just kind of look at some of the code, and I've thought about forking this myself, because I know I looked at some of the code before and I was like, oh, they're using some really old stuff here. And I could update it to a more modern thing, but this uses libGDX as well. So this would be a good way of learning that if you wanted to as well. And you can look at, I mean, they've got pull requests out there, and I'm sure they've got tons of issues all the time, and there's probably a few that like you could look at. I'm not saying you have to like contribute to them, but you can at least look at the code, and you can fork it to your own GitHub and just kind of play around with it and stuff. So yep, that's what it is. It's all about practicing. It's just like learning a musical instrument. You just gotta keep on practicing. So speaking of, so we were having a problem with chapter 7 here, where my stuff wasn't working. Now I downloaded the book's code here, and I can run it, and we can see how it runs for them. And this is the stuff that I've been looking at. This is their code. So luckily I was able to let's go new window here. I was able to dig through my code and figure out that I had two problems. One didn't fix the problem. It was just kind of a thing that I did wrong, and I fixed that. Let me see if I can pull up the diff here. So let me see. Compare. That wasn't the one. Where is the? I guess I just have to do this. Compare versions. Here we go. I made a lot of these changes are me just adding logging statements, so that's why there's a lot of changes here. But the main thing I did was, so I added this. So I was not setting the pipeline cache in here, so I added that in. I moved the current fence reset because I had it in a different spot than where they had it, because I thought maybe that was doing it. It was not. And then I think wasn't device queue. Where was it? So in Vulkan Renderer here, I even though I had done it this way, I changed to the way that they had it because I realized that the way I was trying to do it might work, but the way they were doing it would always work. And I was like, well, let's just do that just to make sure. But here's the real change. And this is what did it. I previously... Oh, wait, no. Set resize. No, that's not the one. Here, right here. This is the one. In the resize method, I had forgotten to actually call the forward renderer resize with the swap chain. So it was crashing out and never displaying the cube. This was the whole error right here. This one line. That was the thing causing me problems. That being said, if I look at their code here, and I run their code again, you'll notice that I can resize their stuff correctly, right? Unfortunately, there's still something wrong with mine where I can't resize it. However, it is working. You can see it's working, and I have a different background color because I don't like the white color, right? However, as soon as I go to resize this, it crashes out. So I'm still missing something, but at least we're a lot further along now that I can work with this. Is what I'm getting at. So let's see if we can figure out where I have gone wrong, and go from there. And that's the first thing we want to do before we move on. And then if I can figure this out, then we can actually move on to chapter 8. We could probably move on to chapter 8 anyway, but I'd like to figure this out now before I get so far afield of it that I can't make heads or tails of anything. So what I need to look at is, what I need to find is where that is failing. So I think we were in Vulkan Renderer. Or forward renderer, I think. Right. No, it wasn't forward render. It was Vulkan render, wasn't it? I think it is. Yeah, resize. So my assumption here is that this resize is getting called again, and then it's just kind of crapping out. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and render is the thing that's getting called inside the main loop. So I'm going to I'm going to put breakpoint there and see if it actually gets hit. So let's fire this up. And it gets hit the first time, which is correct. Same with that. All right. Ooh. So that time it just crashed without me doing anything. Alright, so what it core dumped too. So PID 9709. Record command buffer. So again, we're back here at this begin render pass. So it's definitely something with the resize, but I'm curious as to why that breaks just in the debugger. Let me take this off for a second. Because it runs okay without it. It could be timing out. That's interesting. So if I run this without the debug, it's okay. But if I run it with debug, it's failing after the first time through. Let me think here. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult to debug what's going on, but what we can do is we'll just put logging messages here for the moment. We'll go old school on it. Debug. Image index would be that. I need to get our logger in here. Okay. So may not have been initialized. It doesn't like that because it's initialized here, theoretically. Oh, because it, yeah, we can get into here without that being -1. That's why it doesn't like it. Because this is an OR. So I guess I can't print that out there. That's going to be annoying. But it is what it is. Wait a minute. I might be able to make it happy if I say image index does not equal no, because it's a native int, so I can't do that. Wait, if I do, is this gonna work? String value of, no, it doesn't like that. Crap. All right. All right, you got me. Guess I won't print that out. That's the other reason why I don't like this. Because I would rather image index be initialized as something so that I could print it out so I know what it is. But I mean, I had this outside here. See, the problem is it's calling acquire next image, which may push me forward. Whereas it doesn't necessarily need to push me forward here. And this is just bad design, right? Because it's like it's assuming I want to get pushed forward when really I just want the current image. I guess I can probably get that. Like if I did swap chain, yeah, I can get current frame, but see, acquire next image. What does that return? It's returning a result. It's not returning a frame. Can I... Would it be terrible if I set that to 0? I think this will still work. I mean, I'll always be... Well, yeah, no, it's being initialized here, so... I can probably set that to 0 safely. Because it's either going to be 0 when it comes in here, because it short-circuited on the or it's going to have the result of calling acquire next image. Yeah, I think we'll do that. All right. And then I want to I guess I'll just put a logging statement here. Okay, so we'll run that. And let that fail, and I can look at the log here. What? I guess I can just look at it in here. So window resized, resize called, Okay, so it's definitely failing. So it got as far as here. So now we gotta do the old long shanks and just go. We'll just say. Okay, so what does that look like? All right, so we got to 4, which is here. Okay, so it's failing when it calls for renderer resize. Interesting. Okay. Well, now we know it's failing there, so I get rid of this crap. All right, so in here somewhere, it's unhappy. So what would happen? Is it still going to fail on me if I do a debug here? Debug breakpoint here? Yeah, it is. That's really annoying. Super annoying. Okay. All right. Well, I can't imagine this failing. However, the rest of these. So create depth images, create frame buffers. Okay, so so call that and calling create frame buffers. We create a logger in here. I should have been just creating loggers in everything, but you know. There we go. Let's see what this gets us. All right, and look at the log. So we got to frame buffer cleanup. So that is so we failed here. So so I guess the frame buffers are, they must be null. Because the only way this would fail is if the frame buffers were null. Let's do a frame buffers. Oh no, I do have some frame buffers. So somewhere along here. So when it was calling the cleanup on them, it's failing. Vulkan frame buffer cleanup. Okay. We'll run this again. See, I am getting this double free detected in Tcache 2. I don't know what that actually means, but it's I'm guessing I'm calling free twice, and I shouldn't be. The question is where. So it cleaned up. So how many frame buffers were there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the sixth one, it's not too happy about, huh? What I should do here is let's put a put toString on this, and we'll just have it do device ID, or just ID, I guess. And that way I can run this again and see exactly which ID it was. Okay. So we have 1402 blah 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 728, right? 3872 3984 40 oh. Look at this. There are two of them with the same ID. That's the double free it's detecting, I bet. Why do I have two frame buffers with the same ID? It must be okay. So when it's hitting this one, so it doesn't do this one. So it's hitting this one because I have two frame buffers. Somehow I got duplicates in there. So where did I create it? I think I have a thing here where I say where I created the frame buffers. Did I log that? It doesn't look like I logged that. No, I don't think I logged it. Alright, so when I'm creating frame buffers, I'm creating two that have the same ID, which is no bueno. Alright. Okay, so we have to track that down. Underpass ID, Vulcan frame buffer. Create frame buffer info. What's going on here? I've lost control of the mouse. What is happening? What's going on here? Oh. Oh, that's super weird. So on your screen, I have control of the mouse. On my screen, it's completely frozen. Well, that's fun. Like I can look at OBS and I can see my mouse moving around. And on my screen, nothing's happening. Well, that's a fun little bug, isn't it? Let me turn the monitor off and turn it back on and see if it detects a new device here. It's just saying no signal now. Well, that is fun. Oh, hang on. Okay, it's back. Well, that is weird. I don't think I've ever seen that before. It just like stopped communicating with my monitor. I turned the monitor off, turned it back on. The monitor was like, "Hey, I don't have a signal." Then all of a sudden, it popped back on again. Okay. This is what happens. This is why all programmers are crazy, because their systems just drive them crazy. They weren't born crazy; they became crazy. Do I use Spring Boot at my job? I use Spring MVC, but I have a strong aversion to Spring Boot. Hey Outlaw, welcome on in. Yeah, I don't like Spring Boot at all. It's the reason I don't like it is they being the Spring maintainers they're sort of chasing the I don't know how to put this. They're like chasing the hot thing, right? Which the hot thing 5 or 6 years ago was like Ruby on Rails being able to generate a whole application for you, just from the command line, just boom, boom, boom. A few commands on the command line, boom, you got all of your stuff generated, and it's all working out of the box. You got this vanilla thing, and in theory, there's nothing wrong with that. In practice, if you want to go even one step out of the sandbox that they've created, you want to do one thing slightly different than the way that they've done it, or in the case of Spring Security, you want to say do two-factor authentication, you basically then have to go and re-implement all of the adapters and interfaces and everything else that you would have had to do had you not used Spring Boot. Right? As soon as you take one step out of the path there, you end up doing tons and tons of work. That's my one problem with it. And it's like I tend to look at that and go like, well, I know that I'm going to want to customize some of this stuff because I know I don't like what they do out of the box. So I might as well just do it. I might as well just take the pain at the beginning and then it's done and we can tweak it however we need to tweak it, right? Especially if you don't like the column names and stuff that they insist upon having in the database for like authentication and stuff like that. And then on top of that, so Spring started out with XML configuration, and XML has fallen out of favor, and rightfully so. It is slow. It can be cumbersome. But the one nice thing about XML is that there were XSLTs attached to everything. So even if the documentation was never updated, I can still look at an XSLT and go, okay, here are the tags that are acceptable to be used here. Even if the documentation doesn't talk about them, I can look at them and go, all right, well, let's see what this does. Let's see what that does. So then they said, all right, we want to get away from XML, so we'll do everything as Java configuration. Fine. You have Java docs, all that stuff. Great. You know, the Java docs are relatively up to date. They're keeping them clean. Cool. Then for Spring Boot, they're like, you know what would be really great? Properties files. We'll just put everything in a properties file. You know, just key equals value. Key equals value, key equals value. It'll be great. Everything will be fine. It's easy to manage. You can commit it with your, with your source code. It's great. Unfortunately, they reintroduced a problem they never had before, which is documentation doesn't keep up with property files. So a lot of times you go online, you're like, okay, I want to configure, PostgreSQL for an in-memory database configuration. Say, I'm throwing weird stuff out there. This is not your typical stuff that you would do. And you look it up and you go, okay, you need to set this property to this. And so you set that property and nothing happens. So you do some more digging. Oh, well, that property was changed to this. So you change to that property. Still nothing. Do some more digging. Well, you need this other property over here. So you add that other property in to the property file. Still nothing. Right? You end up going down this rabbit hole of nonsense where nobody's kept any documentation up to date. You've got old documentation coming up in Google searches. You've got new documentation that conflicts with it. If you have new documentation at all, it's a mess. They've created a huge mess. And in the meantime, somebody, and I swear to God, if I ever find the developer who's doing this, I may lose my mind on them. Some dev at Spring Source loves builder patterns. They love builder patterns. It's like the only thing they know how to do is a builder pattern. And let me tell you something. I hate builder patterns. Right? I understand, like, there are times when a builder pattern actually does kind of make your code a little bit cleaner to read. It does make the code a little bit more readable. I will concede that point every time. But when you need one of the overarching concepts of OOP is extensibility. And by God, is it so freaking hard to extend an adapter or an interface that accepts builder pattern stuff. Because they lock down builder patterns like crazy. Everything's private. Nothing's protected. Good luck if you want to introduce something into that, or you want to extend that to make your own thing. Screw you, is what they've basically said. they've gone and said, you know what, this whole object-oriented thing that we're doing, this whole inheritance thing, we don't want you to actually do anything with our library. We'll tell you that there's adapters to do things, but then we'll make it so that you can't actually extend those adapters because every single one of them takes a goddamn builder pattern. And so I've kind of sworn off Spring Boot until somebody comes to their senses at Spring Source and it's like, kicks that guy to the curb who's doing builder pattern stuff, tells him never to come back, and gets back to some semblance of sanity. Unfortunately, I get the feeling that semblance of sanity is going to be some kind of YAML file, and that doesn't help because we still have the same documentation problem that we'd have otherwise. But I will take a JSON configuration over what they're doing right now, because at least with a JSON configuration you could put a JSON documentation out there. I forget the. It's not. I keep thinking XSLT in my head, but there's some equivalent to that in JSON that is escaping me at the moment. It's just like that those are the parts that just kind of drive me nuts about Spring Boot. And people, I get that people use it all the time and it's very, very successful, and it's the thing that they're pushing the most. Those of us still clinging to Spring MVC and all that stuff are a dying breed, and eventually they're going to take all of our cookies away from us. And we'll have to suffer through Spring Boot nonsense. But I'm going to hold on for dear life to Spring MVC for as long as I can. I like the Java configuration stuff. What we do at work, we still have the old XML configuration stuff. And for some things, it makes sense to have XML because it is actually a lot cleaner to look at, particularly when you're initializing like when you're initializing collections and stuff like that, or maps. They actually look a lot better in XML because you can just go right down. Your eye can just follow right down and say, oh, here, I'm setting the map to this, I'm setting the collection to this. Rather than the Java equivalent of it. But there are other things that I do think are better suited to Java. I think actual bean creation and stuff like that, the normal bean creation stuff, is nicer in Java. But there are other things that are in XML that I think are also really good. Like I said, like initializing collections and things like that, and maps and things are just kind of look better, easier to follow in the XML config stuff. So I kind of like more of a hybrid thing, like have some Java configuration, enough Java configuration to get rid of the web.xml, which you can do now. I would like to do enough to get rid of the web XML, so you don't have to. All of your servlets and all that stuff are just in the Java code, or defined in the Java code, I should say. And then still have like a few XML files around for things that make sense to be there. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Back in the day, I used to do JSPs and what was it, struts? I used to do Apache struts back in the day, and when we switched to Spring, very it was very good. Like Spring has always been. I mean, there's a reason why Spring is so popular. Is that it is good at what it does. Um, the problem is that it's also very obtuse at points. And part of that is because it's been around for so long. I mean, it's probably like 16, 17 years old now, the Spring Library. Something like that. And it's like with anything, this is Java suffers from this, C suffers from this a bit too. Anything that's been around long enough, you have this conflict of what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict of styles, conflict of mechanisms, I guess is a better word. Where you look up something online, you say, "How do I do X in C, say?" And you get an answer, but that answer was from 15 years ago, and now there's a better way to do X. And so you have to go digging a little bit further to try to find a more up-to-date answer. To see the correct way to do it nowadays. And Spring is very much the same thing. It's like a lot of times you look up how to do something and you just get some really old ass document that might actually still partially work, but 9 times out of 10 it's some deprecated thing that they've just never removed, or haven't removed yet, but eventually will. So that's the hard thing. That's any library or language or anything like that's been around sufficiently long, they all end up in the same kind of boat, So yeah. Okay, so when I create frame buffer info, I'm gonna put a logger here. So I know when these are being created, because apparently I'm creating a duplicate one, and that's not immediately obvious when I'm doing that. Create frame buffer info. Okay. Huh. All right. Well, let's see what this says when I run this. All right. So frame buffer. Where am I creating frame buffers here? Here we go. Create frame buffer. Okay. I wonder how those got the same ID. That's interesting. I somehow got the same ID on these two. That doesn't seem like that should be a thing. Because it cleaned it up here, and then it created a new one with the same ID, which is a little disturbing to me. And actually, oh, it's creating all of these with the same ID? Is that supposed to happen? That doesn't seem like that should happen that way. I mean, it's possible. It's possible the Vulcan driver's doing something under covers where it's like, hey, I'm caching these or something, but that doesn't seem right. Am I printing out the right ID here? Create frame buffer info. Width, height, render pass ID. This ID, it's not static. Okay. Create frame buffer. So I'm doing a colic against the stack. Attachments. Yeah, I had a pretty good day. Yeah, no complaints. I had it's been a relatively pain-free day until about like an hour ago, where I was like my stomach wasn't hurting for change, and my legs weren't hurting for change, and then like an hour ago, my shoulder was like, I now create pain for no reason. But it has loosened up a bit now that I've been sitting here. So that's good. At least that's passed. But yeah, no, it's been a pretty good day. Got some stuff done. Have like, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is going to be a relatively simple production release that we're doing in the next couple weeks, because I only really have one more big thing to do. There's a lot of little things, but they don't have to get done for this release. I just have one big thing that has to get done, and I've got like 7 weeks to do it, and so far so good. I mean, I'll be starting it. I was started it a little bit today, and unless something crazy that I haven't thought about happens, I think I might actually finish it, and with time to spare, and it might be like a non-stressful release for a change, which would be really, really cool. Really, really cool, hopefully. But we'll see. Yeah, it's so far so good. They are, man, it's like AI stuff is just pissing me off now. It's gotten to a point where it's starting to really, really tick me off. Like I still believe it's a good tool, but the amount of money companies are dumping into the AI bubble is insane. And my concern now isn't because people have asked me like, am I worried it's going to take, going to lose your job to AI? It's like, no, I'm not worried about losing my job to AI. I'm more concerned about the jobs that are going to be lost when this bubble bursts. Because there are companies dumping billions into AI tech bros. And these AI tech bros are making hand over fist, delivering a nothing burger to these companies. And the companies are not. It really shocks me how uninformed the executive leadership at companies are, at tech companies are, when it comes to something like this. Right? It's like you have so much technical talent working for you that you could talk to and get unfiltered, raw feedback from. And yet they're still on this hype train. Everything's got to be AI. We look at all the investment money we can get from having an AI solution to this and AI that, and AI is going to reduce all of our costs. And AI is it's like no, it's not. If anything, it's shot your costs through the roof because you're paying millions of dollars for what is essentially a learning system that we've had around for decades at this point. The only difference is that they shoved a large language model in there. They trolled the internet for knowledge instead of just having domain specific knowledge in it. Like whoop de freaking do, right? It's the same crap we've had for so long here. And oh yeah, they made it scale a little bit. Except, you're paying for all that scaling. They've also found a way to monetize the bejesus out of it. Like every 5 cents a token or whatever it is. It's insane. And then you got IDEs that are, we're going to have all the AI is embedded in the IDE. And then you're like, well, that's great and all, but the IDE I'm using right now has all these other has years and years of integrations with all the other tools that I use, and your IDE just has ChatGPT in it and nothing else. Like, what do I like? Like, I could barely get a debugger working in your IDE. like I feel like I've taken 20 steps back because AI. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. Like just the money that's getting dumped into it is just insanity. And I've talked about it before, but there was the dot-com bubble happened while I was in college. And just before I graduated, that bubble burst. And there was nothing. There were no jobs anywhere for someone coming out of college. Like, it just absolutely decimated everything that was going on. And yet, many companies survived that. Like, quite a few companies survived the dot-com bust. A lot didn't, but quite a few did. Right? When the AI bubble bursts, I can't imagine anything but Fang will survive. Facebook, Amazon, Google, probably Salesforce, because they just survive anything. SAP will probably survive. Oracle will survive because, despite Larry needing a new yacht every 5 months, despite Oracle being the place where applications go to die, they do have their cash cow, which is their database system. So there's that. Microsoft will survive. And, well, Microsoft will probably take the biggest hit because they've gone way overboard with the AI stuff. Like they're trying to make AI code Windows, which has already caused some hilarity. They are dropping a lot of people. What was it, 9,000 this last time around? But a lot of that was I don't. It still doesn't compute with me, because during the pandemic years, they hired a ton of people. Now, I get it to a certain extent because everybody was remote. And it made sense for companies to go and try to hire people in areas where the cost of living was lower so that they didn't have to pay them quite as much. Especially these California-based companies. Because as much as I love California, California is not representative of anywhere else in the country. Like pay grades and everything else, rents, everything is just astronomically higher than it is pretty much anywhere in the country, right? Except maybe New Jersey. And it's slightly north of it in New York, maybe. But it's a lot of these, Silicon Valley based companies went, hey, we don't have to hire overseas. We can hire in the United States, just, from bumfuck Ohio, right? Where we don't have to pay them $200,000 a year. We can pay them 80 grand and they'll still have a decent living. And so they did that. And then in a move of just absolute insanity, said, okay, everybody back to the office. And now that they're trying to get everybody back in the office, they're like, oh, well, these people we hired remote, well, we can't bring them back in the office. It would cost us too much to relocate them. So, see ya. Right? So it's like you undid all the savings, quote unquote, that you were doing in the first place. I don't understand. This is why I'm not a businessman. I don't understand these things. This is why I'm a code monkey, and I will forever be a code monkey, because I can't be a suit monkey. I just don't think the same way that they do. I can't be a PowerPoint monkey. I can't be a spreadsheet monkey. I just don't have the thought processes to do it. It's just I don't know. And we're still seeing a lot of that correction, quote unquote, which is a terrible word for layoffs, but that's what they're calling it. It's insanity. And just like anything else, they're looking at this AI thing as being, well, we can, in the long run, we can save money by replacing, workers with AI. But in reality, one, you can't replace them with AI because the AI just, it's artificial, but it is not intelligent, not the slightest. You get more intelligence out of a tabletop DM shaking a bag of dice or 1,000 monkeys typing on 1,000 keyboards than you would an AI right now. Because that's basically the equivalent of what the AI is doing, right? The AI doesn't understand what it's doing. It doesn't understand context. It doesn't understand human English. It's just picking random stuff and slapping it together and putting weights on it. And it just so happens to be weighted towards one topic or another. But it has no concept of correct code. It has no concept of bug-free code. It has no concept of what a human needs in order to use the system, right? It has nothing of it like that. But these CEOs will hype it up to the nth degree. Oh, it's the next greatest thing. It's like, no, no, it's not. It's artificial stupidity. It's artificial randomness. That's about all it is. It sees a bunch of tokens and it shoves them together, and sometimes it's halfway correct. Yay. I bet I could pull 20 people off the street who've never programmed before and give them a task and they would get it halfway correct as well. I mean, it's it's not, it's insanity. And that's my big concern, is that when this bubble bursts, is that it's going to take out a lot more, because over the years, the other problem is, the other difference between now and 2001, other than technology, is that a lot of the small businesses, a lot of the startups and everything just don't exist anymore. The big players, the Microsofts, the Google, the Oracles, all of those guys, the Amazons, they have sucked up a lot of the small companies. They've gone on M&A sweeps, just mergers, acquisitions, left, right, and center. And what that means now is, when this bubble bursts, and I have a feeling it will, I don't know when it will, that's a hell of you're going to get a lot of companies going out of business that you can't afford to have go out of business. You know what I mean? They almost killed them all. Yeah, they did. They almost. I mean, there's still a lot of startups happening. You still have incubators like Y Combinator and stuff like that. You still have investment firms that invest in smaller companies. But it used to be that you would have there was 3 ways to exit, right? Well, 2 ways to exit and 1 way to stay with it. 3 endpoints to a startup, which was either A, you take a product to market and it succeeds and you become independent and bring in all the money and all the people. B was you bring a product to market, it's cool and flashy, you never quite figure out how to monetize it, and some investor goes, we could take this and do something with it, and then you get your golden parachute and leave. And then the other one was obviously the third out was the shit hits the fan, you never produce anything worth a damn, you don't get any investors, and you just die. Right? I mean, that's basically the way those things go. But now it's like the only it's almost like the only viable solution for small companies now is to get bought by a larger company. Like that's the only exit strategy now. Because as soon as if you try to stay independent and you have something successful, well, then come all the patent trolls trying to take you down a peg. They're all trying to get their pound of flesh. And then you've got, the big companies rolling over you with their marketing and stuff. And it's just so many things that just come together to make it infeasible to survive that, Yeah, it's a target on your back. Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a damn shame because there's, I've worked for a lot of small companies. I actually prefer to work for small companies. Even though you have to deal with personalities more, and by that I mean you have to deal with the executives' personalities a little bit more, and executives tend to be a little out there, and a little frustrating to deal with. And I'm trying to be as nice as possible when I say that. But I still kind of prefer that environment because it gives you the environment to make change. A lot of times you get into these big companies and you're just a cog in the machine. No matter how good you are at what you do, it's really hard to steer that boat the way it needs to go. And you end up fighting against corporate culture nonsense that happened before you got there. One of the companies that I worked at that I speak about a lot, but no names. They were a larger company when I joined them. But a lot of their problems were culture problems in the company. Because, they, at some point, years prior to me getting there was some kind of kerfuffle, right? There was some kind of, they had a deal that was damn near signed. It was been the biggest deal ever, and it fell through because there was a bug somewhere or something, a production deployment didn't go right or something like that. And holy hell was let loose upon the workforce. And all kinds of changes were mandated to try and fix the failing, which likely was a failing of expectation setting on the management part, not on development or on the IT staff or anything like that. But management doesn't blame themselves, they blame the line workers, right? And so the line workers had to endure now from that point forward all these just weird, nonsensical things. That was the company that had the spreadsheet of idiocy, where it was whenever a new feature was proposed, you had to fill out this spreadsheet that would say all the classes and stuff that you were going to change or add, and how many people you were going to assign to the project. And it would spit out a magic number of how many hours, how long it was going to take to do this, and how much estimation you need to do. And I'm like, you look at the formula I'm like, you're not hiding anything. You look at the formulas in the spreadsheet, they're complete bullshit, right? It's just somebody put that together because management was screaming at them to make changes, to make, to never have a bad thing happen ever again. And they were like, all right, we'll just slap this thing together and pretend that it's the greatest thing in the world. And then from that point forward, everyone is stuck with it. And what was hilarious was it would generate a number, and then management would look at the number and go, yeah, we're just going to give you, this number you generate was for 3 people working on the project. So we're going to put 6 people on the project, and we're going to knock the number down to 1/3 of what you asked for. Which, number one, doesn't make any sense, because all you did was double the staff. So you would think it would only half it, but no, they put it down by 1/3. And number two, I calculated it for 3 people, because you can only get 3 people on it. Right? At some point, like, it might sound nice to have 6 cooks in the kitchen, but at some point there's nothing for 4 of them to do except stand around and wait for something to come their way, right? Like, it's just basic stuff like that they just don't understand. And that's the same thing is happening with the AI stuff, where it's like there's a fundamental lack of knowledge that could easily be fixed, but they don't want to hear it. They're caught up in the swell. They're caught up in the tide, and it's like a, I don't know if I don't think you would call it gaslighting, but it's like a it's like a gambler's fallacy, right? It's like, if I don't gamble, we're not going to win. So we got to gamble, even though it's a shitty gamble. We got to gamble. We got to keep putting money in. Our competitors are putting millions of dollars in. We got to put tens of millions of dollars in. It's like that. It's pure insanity. It's just pure insanity. And the only person that's going to win at the end of the day are these AI bros who are leasing these companies for tons of money. Because what's happening, and it's crazy to even see it happening too. Because you could predict that it would happen, but then to sit there and watch it happen is insane. Like, what I'm seeing now is a lot of these firms that have a lot of these AI technology firms who have these products that they're marketing out to other businesses, B2B stuff. They've already given out their free samples. Like, the free samples are already done. Now it's like, oh, well, you got to pay, 30 cents per large query, and you got to pay 35 cents per large query. You got to pay 45 cents per large query. What's a large query? We get to determine what a large query is. We can't really tell you. It's just, we know it when we see it. Right? And they're just, you can see them turning the heat up on the frog, and the frogs are just like, this is cool. This is good. This is how we compete. It's like, it's so dumb. I can't. I don't know, man. My brain is, clearly I'm not cut out for it. Clearly I'm just meant to shut up and write code. Because nothing else makes any freaking sense. Oh man. So, am I supposed to get the same? Like, when I call this, I'm getting the same frame. I'm getting the same IDs back. Is that supposed to happen? I feel like that's not supposed to happen. What if let me look at their code. So they create frame buffer. So they're doing that. I'm doing the same thing. Stack push. Am I supposed? Am I supposed to wait between? Destroy frame buffer. It did it again. What is going on here? Why is it doing that? My monitor disconnected again. What is happening here? Why is it doing that? I wonder if there's a... I wonder if there's like a power setting or something that's causing the monitor to disconnect. That's really strange. It doesn't do this when I'm playing games and stuff. Power. I think that's necessary. I don't know if it's a power setting that's doing that. That's just really strange. I don't know why. I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't do that when I'm in my other when I'm booted into my other instance of Debian, it doesn't do that. Very weird. I don't know what I did here that's causing that. Huh. No, that's what's weird. It's not a cable disc because the monitor's still on. It just the image freezes. But when I look over on OBS, everything's still fine. The mouse is moving and everything. And then I turn the monitor off, turn it back on. It says that there's no signal, and then suddenly it says, "Oh wait, there is a signal," and then it comes back on. It's very strange. I haven't. This is the first time I've encountered it. I don't know what's. And like I said, it doesn't happen on my other instance of Debian where I play games and stuff. So I don't know. That's weird. I'll have to go look it up or something. Maybe someone else has encountered that before. No idea. None whatsoever. Because I would understand if it was a cable disconnecting. I would, I would expect the monitor to go blank, or to at least say, no signal or something. But it's not. And this is the first time it's happened too. Like this session. I wonder if do I have sudo at update? Yeah, I'm all up to date. Don't know. I wonder if maybe it's something in display configuration here. Enable primary. Oh, do I think I set down to 60. That might have been it. I still had it at 240 hertz, which I don't have 240 hertz turned on the monitor. It can do it, but I don't have it turned on. I wonder if that was doing it. Because I know I changed this on the other instance. Identify screens. Yeah, Data General's up there, and then the Century Joint Innovations down here. Yeah, okay. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Do not know. I don't need 240 hertz anyway. It's not doing anything for my eyes. Let's see. Yeah, I want to see. Maybe they are. I'm tempted to change their thing here so I can see. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to do logger. Okay. run their thing and then see in their log. What happens? All right, destroying frame buffer. Oh, see, they have the same thing. They're creating destroying frame buffer. Well, no, that's correct. Destroyed the ones that were created, but then this one here. Okay, so they are getting different frame buffer IDs. Yeah, they are most certainly getting different frame buffer IDs. Okay, so how did I mess that up? How did I mess that up? Was I always a smart guy at school? I don't consider myself a smart guy. I guess is the best way I can put that. I I struggled in school for various reasons. Um, I've never been good at math, so I had to struggle a bit, and particularly early on, I struggled a lot because I don't. I am very introverted, so people just being around people is draining, to say the least. And then to be put into a situation where you're around people that you may know or may not know, but you're also trying to focus and you're trying to be attentive, but you're in a classroom and everybody's not necessarily as focused and as attentive as you are at any given time. So there's a lot of distractions. I never liked getting called on in class. In fact, I often, particularly in high school, when a teacher would call on me, I just wouldn't respond. I would just I would just sit there and just look at my textbook until they called somebody else. Um, it's not that I didn't know the answer; it's that I just didn't want to participate. Um, I just didn't like being put on the spot. Um, and it also made it harder for me uh, to learn because I needed to focus. Um, and every time a teacher calls on you, you lose your focus because you're now on the spot in front of your friends, and nothing you say at that point you're going to retain because you're no longer in retention mode. You're now trying to think of something to say. And it's just like I hated it. I hated it a lot. Um, the one thing that what made it a little bit more difficult too is my parents were not particularly adept uh, with their education either. They were, much older when I was young, and like my mom was in her 40s and 50s, and my dad was in his 50s and then 60s. So it had been a long time since they had been in school, so they couldn't, they could help me early on, and my mom did help me a lot early on, particularly with like spelling and stuff. That was something that she really wanted to get me to be able to do correctly. Um, and phonics and stuff like that, stuff that I had a lot of problems with. And but like when it came to like math and stuff like that, so like she could help me with the basics. But then once I got into high school with geometry and stuff, she just pulled me aside and she said, "Look, I can't help you now. So you're gonna have to just pay attention and and fight through it." And so that's what I did. I just kind of paid hyper attention and wrote a lot of notes down. And then right before a test or a quiz, there was always like 2 minutes or so, or 3 minutes while while everybody was getting into the room, and then while the teacher was doing roll, that I would just have my books open and I would just re examine everything and just get it fresh in my brain and then just take the test. And I got, I wasn't an A student, but I was like B's and A's, like a low A, I guess. I wasn't, honor roll or anything like that. Um, but I did good enough that it didn't flag any problems. Like I wasn't a necessarily a problem student or anything like that. I was just my own person. um, so like, but all that stuff, like I was never like names, dates, stuff like that. I was never good at remembering. I've never been good at remembering. So history class was a real pain in the ass. Because that's all it was memorizing dates and names and stuff. And I just could not do it. Um, but I managed, I couldn't do it beyond the 10 minutes that I would re-examine my notes. I could do it enough in the moment to get a decent grade on a test, but I couldn't regurgitate it later on. Um, that just wasn't going to happen. And yeah, I struggled with a lot of that in school. It was not a fun time, and I certainly, once I got out of high school, I knew I was going to go to college because I had to go to college. And by that I mean I knew I wanted to do development and software development and stuff. Because at that point I had already started teaching myself how to write code in C and assembly and basic and all that stuff. And I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I also knew that I couldn't get a job if I didn't have it. I could, but it would be very difficult to get a job without at least a bachelor's degree, because that's it's a stupid hall pass, but it's a hall pass that you have to deal with. A lot of people who would be really good at this job never get a chance at it because they don't have a degree, which is just the dumbest thing ever. So college was what I like to call 4 years of hell, because it was just, I didn't want to be there at all. I hated every minute of it. The only shining star throughout it was that I was getting computer classes and I was doing development classes, but I also had learned so much on my own that it was mostly just reinforcing stuff that I already knew in there, which was helpful. But at the same time, when I got out of college, I had the fundamentals and I knew the algorithms and stuff like that, but I didn't have the skills that were the practical skills that were really needed. Like they didn't go over source control, and I had some database knowledge, so I knew SQL and stuff like that, which helped out tremendously. But they didn't go over like clean code practices and things that you end up having to learn the hard way on the job, when you run afoul of it and somebody yells at you. Yeah. And trust me, I got yelled at a lot. A hell of a lot. But you learn. And the important thing there is is to come to an understanding as soon as you can of the fact that they're criticizing your work, they're not criticizing you as a person. That's the hardest thing to grasp, is that it's possible to have your work criticized without, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're criticizing you as a person. They're just, your work product isn't what they're expecting. That was really hard to finally come to grips with. I had a few encounters with the senior devs in my day when I was just a junior, that I am not proud of. I had a few words that were said that I could have phrased better, but to their credit, they let it slide. You know. And then I eventually grew up and learned. Which is also a very important thing. It's one thing to act the ass. It's another thing to realize that you're acting the ass and you need to grow up a little bit. And thankfully I figured that out fairly quickly. So yeah, this is not, my main thesis here is that this is not, what I'm doing is not smart. It's not the domain of smart people. I mean, there are smart people in this who write code, but it's not solely their domain, right? Just because you write code does not mean you have to be super smart. This stuff is, you know, anybody can pick this up with practice, right? Well, with practice and with the desire to pick it up, because obviously you gotta enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, it will chew you up and spit you out really early on. And there was a lot of people who thought they would cut it as a career, you know, do development as a career, and didn't last long because they didn't enjoy it as much as they thought they would. Like, they thought they were convincing themselves that they were enjoying what they were doing, but then once the rubber hit the road and they were, you know, and things were tough, they realized, you know, and they had to endure, you know, negative feedback and other people taking credit for stuff that they've done. You know, it will, you know, it will, they realized that it was just not for them, you know. And it's a shame because there's, you know, I've seen a lot of really good devs who are just like, you know what, I'm just going to become a manager. I'm just hanging up my spurs because it's the grind is not, you know, worth the juice is not worth the squeeze, as it were. And then there's a lot of people who manage to still enjoy everything despite how rough it can get at times, you know, how stressful it can get. But yeah, nothing I'm doing is the domain of is solely the domain of smart people. Anybody can do this, and probably with better success than I'm having. Right? I know enough to be moderately successful, but I would never be a runaway hit or anything like that. Because I just don't. I like. There are people like right now. Like, you're talking about the AI stuff. There are people who understand how to code AI systems, they are worlds smarter than I am. Because I tried to learn how to do AI stuff in college because I was very interested in it. And the math alone was, I just couldn't hack it. I found out very quickly that it was just over my head. Like I just could not grasp some of the things. I mean, I tried to learn how to do like genetic algorithms and stuff, which, you know, to most people working in AI now that's probably child's play. But to me, it was a insurmountable cliff. I couldn't, for the life of me, figure it out. Like code that could, you know, learn and change itself, and that's not even remotely getting into like neural nets, and then there's discrete math, which still boggles my mind. Yeah, it was. Part of college is learning what you're not good at, and I was definitely not good at that. Yeah, so I found my niche. You know, and it's worked out pretty well. You know, over the years. You know, I do web apps for a living, and you know, I managed to get in when the internet was still finding its footing. You know, nowadays it's you can still do it. There's still a lot of demand for, you know, full stack developers and stuff, but it's less Wild West than it was back in the day. And more often than not, you're inheriting applications that have been around for years and years. So, you know, a lot more of your time is spent fixing bugs and refactoring, if they'll let you refactor. That's always the hard part. You gotta find a place that lets you, you know, clear out the technical debt and not just let it pile up all the time until it becomes, you know, insurmountable. Okay. So I wonder, so memory stack there. So how is it? Clean up. Vulkan frame buffer. Am I? Well, these. Okay. I think I know what's happening here. So I'm definitely calling destroy frame buffer. But I'm not losing the reference to Vulkan frame buffer here. And so somehow that's transferring over. And so I'm seeing IDs of things that I've already destroyed, and it's trying to recreate them again, it seems like. So something is, and I'll bet it has to do with my collections. Did I make a immutable collection or something? Did I screw myself by doing that? Create frame buffer info. buffer info, this ID. So Vulkan frame buffer. So then this goes into, where does this go? This goes into, create frame buffers. Create frame buffers. New array list. It's just a regular array list. This frame buffer's add frame buffer. Yeah, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I never clear out this array list. So when we do frame buffers, record, resize, that's what's going on. So clean up. Yeah, this is okay. Frame buffers equals new lists. Oh, it's a final. Frame buffers. Dot clear. There we go. And then what else do I have as an array, as a list here? Fences. Command buffers. Fences and command buffers. Depth attachments also probably, right? Yeah, okay. So let's do this. That's what's going on. This is what's happening. Because they were using arrays for everything. And so they were just completely ditching the array. I'm using an array list, which will stick around after cleanup here. So even though I'm calling cleanup on the stuff, it's sticking around in the array list. And then I'm just adding additional onto the array list, which is what was happening there. Okay. So that's just due to the way that I designed it. That same thing is going to happen in a lot of different areas, though, now that I think about it. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this first, because I have a feeling this will fix the problem I just had. Nope. Okay. We're still getting that. We're still getting the double free detected. Okay. But that's, we should be further along now, right? No, I'm still getting this double thing here. Did I create the double thing? No. Create frame buffer. it's in there. It's in there 3 times? No, it's not. Okay. But no, this one's here twice. So when did that get created? Okay. But it's still in there. It's still in there twice somehow. So I've done something bad. So it was only created once though. So why is it seeing it twice? What was the yeah, it's getting called twice. Is it in this list twice again? Yeah, it is. Is this in here twice? Yeah, that's in there twice as well. And this one. Yeah, they're all in there twice. That's no bueno. It's forward renderer. Oh, I gotta do it here too. Duh. That's why. I did it in the other spot, but I didn't do it here. Yeah. There we go. So that should take care of it then. There we go. Now we can resize without it crashing. There we go. All right. That was an error of my own making. My own bacon. Bacon making. Okay. I gotta be cognizant of that because I'm doing things differently enough that I'm causing problems for myself. Okay. Well, that's good. So that means I think we're officially done chapter 7. Going 3D. So yeah, we got our cube, our spinny cube, in a window that could be resized. Nice. All right, next chapter. Complex models and textures. Oh, here we get into texture loading and stuff, which I already have code to do texture loading or OpenGL, and I'm using ASIMP, asset import. So should be able to pull some of that over. Create a new class called model loader, which defines a method named load model to achieve the above mentioned goal. Okay. Choose an identifier associated to the model, the path file that contains the data of the model, and the directory where the textures will reside. Okay. Texture directory, AI scene, model loader, model data, material. Process mesh, model data, model loader. Okay, textures. texture content from image files and properly displays contents. We'll use STB library, so we need to set that up. Okay. I think I'm using Asimp, which already does that. Oh no, I'm using STB. Yeah, STBI failure. Yeah. I forgot that. Where I got that. So that's the texture stuff. Texture transition. I'm just getting a general overview of what they have here. Texture cache. Engine properties, texture cache. Indexed linked hash map. Okay. They create their own hash map implementation for some reason. Just to do an index, get value at index. Which seems wholly unnecessary, but all right. Model mesh lists, transfer material. Okay, so this stuff will need the record transfer command. Descriptors represent shader resources. Buffers, images, or samplers. Descriptor pool. Set layout, descriptor set layout. Texture sampler. Images are not usually accessed directly when used as textures. When we access a texture, we usually want to apply some type of filters, MIP levels, and maybe some repetition patterns. That's handled for a sampler. Okay. Create sampler. We need to invoke VK create sampler function. Okay. Device. Descriptor set. Texture. Man, this is going to be another big chapter here. There's a lot of stuff here. Now they do bring uniforms in, which we've used in OpenGL. So that's a thing. Completing the changes pipeline. Just an additional thing to clean up. A few other things. Render activity. Utilities. We'll need to update the record command buffer like this. Okay. And then we got to update our shaders to take in the uniforms. And then register the models in the renderer. Okay. And then you have this. So I'm going to have something different. I mean, they're reusing the cube entity. I guess I'm going to have to use the cube entity. Because I have a different model that I can load up. What's the camera support? Yeah, see, what I would like to do is load up that other model. So we are, because that would put us in line with where we're at with the OpenGL engine. I'll just have to figure out, I mean, it's basically I just have to load that. I have to load the, oh, well, they're just loading up the cube object, which is the model. So this will work then. I'll just point it at, instead of pointing at cube object, I'll point it at the object that I have, which should just work then. And we can rotate that, I would think. Because it's still going through asset import. All right, so then if I go over to, this is the one advantage to having the code down on my machine here. Let's close all of that. And you know what? I need to revert my changes here. Back. There we go. All right, so that said, I should be able to do compare, and I want to compare chapter 7 with chapter 8. That's fine. Okay. So, yeah, we have a cube model, blah, blah, blah. Here's the shaders that they've changed. What they've actually changed in them. That's good. And it looks like they changed. So this is a new file. These are new files. Device has smaller changes in it. This is going to be very helpful because I could see exactly what they changed instead of trying to scroll through that damn web page. Pipeline. The texture is brand new. That's brand new. That's brand new. And then they added a few utilities. Okay. Then under scene, they've modified model data, and model loader is completely new. All right. And that's it. Okay, so it's actually, there's a lot of new classes. And just a few small changes to existing ones. So that's good. All right, so we have the diff here. That'll help out. That'll help out a lot. Try and go through it. But I'm not going to do that tonight because I am getting tired. We are going to do that tomorrow, though. Start on chapter 8 tomorrow. Start getting. I guess we'll start with the new classes, because what I'm going to have to do is I have some of these like loading things over in the OpenGL engine stuff here. Is this common? This is common. This is not common, but in there you go, model loader. Yeah, see, I've already got the loader stuff here. So I'm thinking I could probably make this model loader more or less a common class that both OpenGL and the Vulkan engine can use. Because I don't think, if there's anything that's OpenGL specific, we'll have to pull it out of here. But I think everything is fairly generic. Fairly? Yeah, fairly generic, I would say. So I can probably use this entire class as is. It's just that it's gonna spit out. Well, it's gonna spit out a model object, which then I just have to convert to whatever they want, and material and stuff like this. So I have a material and a model class over here in common that it's slightly different than those, so I'll have to rework it to have the right stuff, but I think that'll be fine. And then the renderer is the one that's got OpenGL stuff in it. It's got GL shaders, so I won't be able to pull this over. this will be specific to Vulkan. Everything else looks fairly straightforward, so I think I think that's good. Let's close all of that out so I don't get confused. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's we'll do that tomorrow, because it's getting late and I'm tired. It's been a day. It's been a long day. doing the day job and then coming on to do some streaming and stuff. So yeah, tomorrow afternoon we'll come back and we'll start chapter 8, which, like I said, quite a bit of this is probably I could just probably pull over from what I already have, so that'll help it go a little bit faster, maybe not much, but a little bit. And then tomorrow night, if I'm up to it, we'll jump back into Planet Crafter for a couple hours, and then Sunday night we'll definitely be doing Planet Crafter. At some point this weekend, off camera, I'm gonna probably see if I can get Star Citizen working, because they're doing a whole big event. They just had a new alpha release, and it's been a long time since I've done anything in Star Citizen, so I am completely out of the loop about all the changes. There's been a lot, but I'm gonna kind of play around with that off camera for now, because this will be the first time I'm running it in Linux, so I don't know what kind of performance and stuff I'm going to get out of it. So there's that. But yeah, that's about it. And then Monday and Tuesday nights we'll be back with RoboCop, which it does look like, based on how long to beat, it does look like it's going to be like an 8 to 10 hour thing, between 8 to 10 hours. So that'll be a nice little jaunt, and I'm enjoying it, so that'll be good. So we'll do that Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday we'll jump back into some Dune Awakening, doing just story and missions and stuff like that. And what else? Thursday, I guess. Yeah, Thursday I might either do more Dune, or we'll jump back to Torchlight 1 and try to get some more progress in that. Maybe I have to work on Torchlight 1 though, because I had some mods installed and stuff, which I need to reinstall and all that jazz on the new computer. So we'll see. Anyway, friends, that is it for me for tonight. If you happen to run across this on the YouTubes and you have a like and or a subscribe that you can toss my way, that would help out tremendously, and I appreciate it greatly. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has an excellent morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what it is for you. And I hope to see you back here again in the future for some more stuff, whatever happens to suit your fancy. Until then, see you bye.
Phrasing.